for our main topic, I want to get into last week's race. It was a couple weeks ago. I'm losing track of the days because it's hard to believe that I ran that race last Sunday. Today, I keep forgetting today's Saturday, but it's really not even been a week since the race. But it's also weird that I recorded the last podcast episode before the race, and now it feels like it's been like 2 weeks since then. But I want to give a little bit of a recap of the Little Miami 10K. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, it was a really great race, really small town race, and just like I think there was one aid station. Maybe there was multiple that I didn't see because I didn't do the half marathon. But this was all the things. I've mentioned this before, but my goal is to run these small races. And this one was really just, again, everything that I've been chasing in terms of like small town, everyday average races. And so I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get any video from my trip because a large part of this race was the drive. And I was really concerned that I wasn't going to do well in this race because the drive was longer than the week prior. And as I mentioned in the weekly recap, it stretched on the way down, but this was 360-mile drive, 5.5 hours, couple of stops along the way, and had to do bib pickup same day. So that little Miami. Halfway to the holidays marathon, I had the packet mailed to me, so I had everything ready to go. For this one, you had to get there, had to get through registration, which, by the way, they did perfectly. It was great. It wasn't too busy. Again, it was a smaller race, so they were able to crank that out pretty quickly. But yeah, the drive down went great. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, there was a lot of rain the couple days leading up to this race in Ohio, and we were blown away by how much water was just like on the roads. I've never seen anything quite like that, where like the water was like settling on the highway. And I remember telling my son, I was like, maybe this is like not handled right, like properly with the engineering side of it, because it seemed to me like there should have been a slope to the highway. Like this was like 4 or 5 lanes across. If you're talking both sides, it was like 8 or 10 lanes across. So kind of weird to have that situation, but luckily we made it there safely. We did have one funny situation. I don't know how many people use like Google Maps for their travel, but as I was driving to the first leg of our trip there, so Google will do this thing where it'll pop up and say, "Hey, there's police nearby," or whatever. It'll warn you, and then you'll kind of look around for it, and sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you don't, and then it'll pop up again and go, "Are the police still there?" Well, I've never seen this before, but as we're driving, it's the middle of the night. We're kind of chill. Everything's kind of going slowly, and I look over, and my phone says there's an object in the road, and I'm like, "What?" I've never seen that before. And I start looking around. Now, this is a huge highway, and I'm in the center lane. And I'm looking around, and in my head, I'm thinking it's probably on the side of the road. So I'm kind of looking off to one side, and I see something like in my lane ahead. It's like a white, like something small, appeared to be thin, up ahead. And I'm like, my son's looking around too, trying to see it. And I'm like, "Do you see anything?" He's like, "No, I don't see anything." And we drive over top of this thing, and it goes bang. And I'm just like, "Oh, shoot. There was, in fact, something in the road." And we had this sort of like gut check for about the next 20 to 30 minutes of whether or not we were going to actually be able to get to the race. Because for those who don't know, I hit a deer maybe like a month ago, and my car is not in the best of shape in terms of the body. And my son and I are talking. I'm like, how low is this thing to the ground? Could that have hurt something on the underside, coolant lines, whatever? So we finally take a break. We stop to switch drivers, and I wanted to figure out where we would roughly be time-wise and things like that. So we get to this gas station, and which, by the way, shout out to BP. This gas station was great. It's amazing how hard it is driving at night like this, how hard it is to find a decent gas station that has a bathroom, But this one was perfect. Everything was well set up. The cashier was super nice. Really cool gas station. I know it seems like a dumb thing to be happy about, but the previous week we hit some pretty sketchy gas stations where, the bathrooms are closed, and it's like it wasn't closed. They just didn't want to clean it. Now I know that for a fact. Just don't worry. So we go to this gas station. We're looking under it. No problems. But yeah. So the funny thing about that was, after we hit the object that was in the road, Google pops up and goes, "Was there still an object in the road?" It's like, yeah, still there. It's like, shoot. So yeah, but the drive down, other than that situation, was pretty good. My daughter came for this trip, and she slept in the back for like the first half of the way down, and then stayed awake for the rest of it. She dozed off a little bit on the way back, but yeah. So we get there, and small parking lot, small registration process, maybe 10 for those who've done races like this. Like Buffalo, there were probably 70 to 100 outhouses that you could go to at the start of the race. This one had 10. And quick line, though. I got through it quickly. Get to the start line, and we probably got there maybe 20 minutes earlier than we needed to, because I was thinking there'd be a long line at the registration. I was planning to try to find some place to go to the bathroom, get situated, and everything went very quickly, so then we were kind of just standing around. So I start doing some of my my stretching, my mobility stuff to get ready for this. And race kicks off at 7:30 in the morning, and I start out with a somewhat aggressive pace, but telling myself, let's just try to keep these first couple miles under 9. My plan originally was to hold a decent pace until mile 3 and then evaluate. So I did that. I kind of kept it between 8:40 and 8:20, somewhere in there, and hit the gel. Actually, I hit the gel to start the race. I saw someone else doing it, and I thought, you know what? Rather than try to open 2 gels in the span of 6 miles, if I do this one now and the other one at like mile 3 when I do the turn at the halfway point, then that means I only have to open 1 gel and think about it one time. So I hit the gel, start running, and I just start cruising. And I watch certain people pass me, just try to lock in. First mile goes by mid 8:30, 8:40. Second mile goes by mid, like I said, 8:30, 8:40. And at that second mile, this lady, I don't know how to describe it other than she was probably in her late 20s, early 30s, definitely much younger than me, goes by me. And at this point, I'm sort of evaluating my legs. I'm worried that I'm going to have another hamstring issue, and I don't want it to happen at mile 2.5. If it's going to happen, let's have it happen at like 5 or 6, so we're close to the end. So I'm kind of letting up at this point so that I can have some for the end. And I'm feeling good enough at this point in the race where I'm like, if I can just stay together, like if my legs can just stay with it, I'll be good to go when the time comes. It's also when I took around 2.5 is when I took that second gel. So I was using that mile to just sort of feel out where I was at and then plan to go for it. So from the end of mile 2 to the cone that we had to go around, I was just kind of like behind this woman who was just slowly getting away from me. And in the back of my mind, I think we all do this on some level, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, I am going to try to pass her. But then I kept telling myself, don't do it too early, because one thing I hate doing is I hate passing someone only to let them pass me again. So she keeps getting further and further away. And we're coming up on the aid station. So I hit the aid station. She did not hit the aid station, which I thought was interesting. So I hit the aid station, drink the water, throw away my gel pack or whatever the package from the gel was in my pocket, and just kind of keep pace with her, but she keeps getting further and further away. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, well, athletically, she's probably about 10 to 15 years younger than me, so she's probably going to get away from me. And I start thinking more strategy in terms of towards the end of the race. So as we get to the cone, I see the cone in the distance. And again, she skipped the last aid station. Or I think it was the only aid station for us. No, there were two. But she skips the aid station. And it was like a quarter of a mile before the cone. And when she skipped the aid station, that's kind of when I was like, I'm not going to try to pass her. So I drink the water. She gets further ahead of me. And we get to this cone. And she's a good distance away. And I watch her just sort of like, not quit, but you could see that she had given everything she could for that first 3 miles. So she was so looking forward to the turnaround that she stops and she walks around it. And I'm telling you, that lit a fire under me because I was like, my first thought was, oh, you're cooked. I'm coming for you. But then there's that part of me that was like, no. Remember your plan. Remember your pacing. So I'm going to put this. I got a couple pictures to put up online. So here's a picture of me running the race. This is towards the end of the race. I did not have great pictures from this. Not the photographer's fault. It was me. But here I am. I was pushing at this point. But anyway, for the next mile, from mile 3 to 4, I'm slowly gaining on her at this point. And I'm kind of using her as a gauge because my plan was to like evaluate the first half and then slowly pick up my pace for the second half of this. And so I kind of used her as a barometer to, am I going fast enough? And with her slowing down, I was like, okay, I need to be speeding up. And my mileage was kind of hitting at the same pace over and over. So I was like, okay, we're good. And I did. I finally passed her probably mile 5 or 6. I'll go by her, and I keep going. And again, one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to pass somebody and then let them come back past me. So I tried to keep my pace. I would slow down a little bit and then keep going. Get to mile 5, and this lady, a different lady altogether, I put her in the rearview mirror, and another lady passes me, and she was like a short, like, I don't know if stocky's the right word, but I mean, you could tell that she lifted weights. I mean, she was like fit, like muscular. But what I noticed was as she went by me, now I run with both earbuds in, and her breathing at mile 5 was not good. She was like full on, but she passed me, and I'm like, I was like, I don't think she has another mile of that left in her. But as we're getting 4.5, 5, she passes me, and I watch her. Same thing. I watch her get far off into the distance, and in my head, I'm like, I probably won't pass her. But I made this particular person my next, like, when it's time to go with like a half a mile left. That's the person I'm going to set in my sights to get past or catch up to. And so I get to like 8.8. What am I saying? I get to 5.6 miles, and I know there's a half a mile left, but I'm like, there's a part of me that thinks that if I start to turn it up now, like, I'm not going to have it. So I tell myself, speed up a little bit, but go a quarter of a mile. That's when we're going to go full on. We're going to unleash. So I keep looking at my watch, and I'm like, don't push it just yet. And I get to that quarter mile. It was actually like 0.3 mile away. It was 5.8 miles. I was like, okay, go. So I start as best as I can sprinting for this race, and giving it all I got. And I see her in the distance, and I decide, yep, I'm gonna pass her. So I go flying by her, and here I am at the finish line. And if you look in the background, there's video of this too. There was this lady in pink. This is a different person, but she was quite a ways ahead of me for this last like little bit of the race. But right at that little bit before that cone, you can see it. She just stopped. She saw the finish line and was like, I'm done. I made it this far. At that moment, I'm like way behind her. I can't point it. I don't know why I do that because you guys can't see it. But like when I was behind her and I saw her quit, it was exactly the same moment that I saw on the clock that it was like 52:30. And I was like, oh, I am within range of hitting my goal of being in the 52s. Now, I wanted 52, but, anything under 54 was going to be a PR for me. And I see 52, and I'm like, 30 seconds. I'm like, if I sprint, from here, then I'll be in the 52s. So I do. I sprint. She stops. I go around. I go jumping around her, go flying through for a. It ended up being a 52:45, which beat my personal record by I think two. I want to say 2.5 minutes. No, probably like 2 minutes. 2 minutes, because my previous best was from the Winter Warrior half marathon, and I had somewhere in that race I had a 10K of like 54 and change. So pretty exciting to have a race go that well. It seems like a lot of my races so far have been such a struggle at the end and not being able to have any burst at the end of it. So then I looked down at my watch. I posted it on Instagram right after this. I looked down at my watch, and my watch says 6.18. And for those who don't know, 10K is 6.2. So I know what Strava's going to do. Strava's going to give me the Strava tax, and I won't get the PR in Strava. So my kids were off to the left filming me coming across the start-finish line, and I go running right by them. And I shared a video that they took. My daughter is in the video going, "Did he see us?" And then my son thinks that I don't see them, that I'm too locked in. And then my daughter's like, "He didn't see us? He just ran right by us." And she's chuckling and laughing in the video. It's a cute video, but I shared it. But then I ran another 0.5 miles past them just to get the Strava stat. So there it is. Strava logged it at 52:55. There was about a 10-second difference between. Actually, this is pretty accurate in terms of my clock time, I think it was. But I started my watch 10 seconds before I crossed the start line. So it actually, timing-wise, was pretty accurate. But here I am with my kids right after the race. You can see I'm pretty red-faced. That's the most effort I've put into a race since the Evil 5K, where I ran my fastest 5K. I keep saying and I'm noticing it now because we talked about it earlier in the episode. But this 10K, I wanted to have a 10K that I could say I completed, because every time I hit the 10K distance, it's in a longer run. And the way that I've been training for, half marathons and marathons, it was nice to just uncork and do a short run as fast as I could. And it went well. Nothing fell apart. I felt good afterwards. A little bit of calf pain. Nothing serious, but all the issues that I had in the previous week at the marathon attempt were gone. Like, I just had no issues. It was just such a good day. And looking back on it now, I attribute the failure at the marathon more towards the car ride than anything. So we're going to try to really work mobility in and try to get my quads and hamstrings and calves and all that stuff. Get it ready for this Marine Corps marathon, because I really would like to do like a 4:30. Even man, if I hit 4:59 at this point, I'd be happy with that. So, as I mentioned earlier, the drive is a big part of these races, and the driving got very tedious the previous week. My son and I, about halfway on the way home, were just completely cooked. And there's something about going to the race that makes it feel like it's going faster, where on the way home, there was really nothing to look forward to. It was just like, oh, I just want to be home. And we were just so tired. So we planned a trip on the way home, to break off of our trip home, to hit a restaurant that is near and dear to my heart, Fazoli's. And if you've never eaten at Fazoli's, it's not a surprise. There's not too many of them left in the U.S. They do pretty good. Just depend. They're just in very specific spots. But for me personally, Fazoli's is it has a near and dear place to my heart, because this is the third job I ever had. And I worked there. I consider Fazoli's to be one of the first real jobs I had. I worked at a little amusement park locally, and then I also had a job at a small grocery store when I was 15 in Iowa. But this was the first job where I was really committed to it for a couple of years, became a trainer, really got invested with the people there, and just had a lot of good, I don't know if you remember your first job in high school, but this was, when I think about my first job in high school, this is the job that comes to mind. My first just real job. It's the way I look at it. And man, I'm telling you, if you have never had Fazoli's breadsticks, they are incredible. If Olive Garden could figure out the breadsticks with Fazoli's, which I do remember how to make them, by the way. I know the recipe, just so you know. But if Olive Garden could figure that out, they would be worlds apart better than Fazoli's, because the breadstick situation at Fazoli's is incredible. But man, all the food was as I remembered it. Like, we're talking, I worked at Fazoli's in the late 90s. So, I mean, it's to think about where like 99 to 01 is when I worked at Fazoli's. And to think about the fact that the food is just as good, just as delicious, just as fast. One of the things that's interesting about Fazoli's is, like, if you go to Olive Garden, you're going to wait like 20 minutes to sit down, wait another 20 minutes to get your food. You might have breadsticks by then. Fazoli's, it's like going to Burger King. You order your food, they give you breadsticks in your cup. You walk to your seat, and like 10 minutes later, the food shows up and they give it to you. It's just a whole nother level of restaurant. I'm surprised that it doesn't do better. I'm not sure why it doesn't, but so we stopped at Fazoli's about halfway on our way home, and ultimately drove 720 miles for this race. It was a challenge. I mean, with what I'm doing, a lot of the challenge is not just the fact that I have to run the race, but I have to do the driving as well. And so that's part of where people get hotels and do that whole thing. I don't do that. So when I look at this race, it was really kind of a redemption arc from the previous week. And it did confirm to me that maybe the trip is something, like the stretching, the mobility on the trip is something I really need to take seriously, and take it seriously throughout my training, which is hopefully I'm going to be able to take that information and work it into the Marine Corps Marathon training and come out of that race really well. The more I look at Marine Corps Marathon, working these extra hours, I might have enough money. My family and I might actually drive up there and make a vacation out of that. So I may not drive. My plan may not be to drive up and hit that race right away. But that said, like 3 weeks after Marine Corps Marathon, I'm doing the Rocky Run in Philadelphia, and that's going to be it's a half marathon with like 6 hour drive. So not done with the driving, but for Marine Corps, it's very important to me that I finish Marine Corps. I mean, it's very important to me that I finish all of them, but Marine Corps specifically, that one we have to finish. So whether time notwithstanding, we have to finish the Marine Corps Marathon. So we're gonna do everything in our power to ensure that happens. So all in all, that was a really good race. And when I look at things through an Uncredible lens, when I look at the world, I'm sharing this story with you from my personal life, but when I apply the principles that I've learned, and I look at the 2 weeks in comparison, you had all this training, and you had a failed race, and listen, a lot of negative thoughts from the race, from the halfway to the holidays marathon, where, I mean, so negative, in fact, that I was like, maybe this running thing isn't for me. And there was definitely a part of me deep down where if the 10K hadn't gone well, I might have just hung it up. Like, I might have just kind of checked the boxes to get through Marine Corps and called it. But after that race, it was like, okay, I know who I am. I know where I'm at. Let's keep moving forward with this plan. But I think to myself in terms of life, and Craig Lewis and I talked a little bit about this on his podcast. Things go, like, you have challenges, and things don't always go the way you hope they'll go, and that's okay. But it's not the end of the world. And you don't have to quit. You don't have to stop because you didn't have the best race or the best training day. It's not that you're a failure. It's just that the circumstances were different. And it's really encouraging to listen to, like, ultra runners who've had a series of failures that lead to some success. And I think that is life, right? Life is falling down over and over and then getting back up, failing to do something and figuring out, learning from that experience, figuring out what happened, and moving on to the next thing. So that's kind of what it means to live life and to to be in this world. And so as you're experimenting with what your body's capable of, what your mind is capable of, you're going to fail. You're not always going to succeed. But that doesn't mean you stop or you give up or you quit. It means learn from it and move forward. So as I look at these last couple of weeks, should I, like one assessment could be stop trying to do so many races at the same time, or stop trying to drive that far and run the race. Well, maybe that's not actually the lesson. Maybe the lesson is adjust how you approach these races so you can do those things. Maybe you head up a little bit earlier, like 2 hours, give yourself 2 hours to relax, stretch, and work on mobility. But doesn't necessarily mean you have to throw everything out, and give up on the plan. It might just mean you need to adjust how you approach it the next time. So
No quit, no quit. Building their wall. While they talk about us, educated, experienced, still not credible. So we embraced it. Now we're uncredible.